Alright, so today I'm going to be doing the China kickoff for 2026. I have the VCT stats roster mania page pulled up on the side so I can remember all of the roster moves. So for the first game, All Gamers versus Nova. Nova let go of their IGL 00000. I don't know how I'm actually supposed to pronounce that guy's name. And Swirl, I believe, was still on there at the end of last year. He is also gone. So that leaves them with Guang, Azir. I'm missing one. I forget how their roster shifted. I know their current five. Oh, they also lost CB. That's who I forgot. So they added Green, a like tier 2 player, as their flex player, but they basically only play double duelist right now. So he's playing a lot of like Yoru, and he's played like one map of KO under Nova. Guang has then moved to duelist. Azir has moved to Sentinel, and Obi-Wan is back on the team. He actually looks a lot better. He's playing the controller role. And then Heibei from previously Trace is coming into IGL the team as the flex role. Or no, it would be the skin initiator role. So overall, I kind of like the direction that Nova's gone. I don't know. I've always been a fan of Nova for like the past year. So seeing like such massive changes kind of like concerns me. But I think they'll be pretty good this year still. I don't think this team will be pushing for international events. Although there is an extra slot, and they could try to make EWC. So you have Master Santiago with 3, London with 3, EWC with 4, and then Champs with 4. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nova made one, but I don't think they're as high up as they once were last year. I thought this team was probably the 3rd best CN team at one point early on in the year, and they kind of just slowly faded down as all the other teams like came up. Like for instance, these guys especially. So All Gamers, I don't know enough about All Gamers to be like, yeah, these players are or are not good. So I have to go with what I know, and I like this Nova roster. I've seen it play pretty well in the offseason. Let's move on to JDG and Tech. Tech looked to be keeping everything the exact same, and they were, I think, like the 9th best team. That might be too high. I forget where they actually were, but I know this team was not high at all. Versus JDG, they signed Yuka, which I like. Bale, I forget how you pronounce his name, the previous head coach of last year and the year before, I believe, on Billy. He was also the head coach of Northampton, who qualified to Masters Copenhagen with Meteor. Remember, like, they upset Zeta Division after their top 3 run in the Masters before. They're keeping Stu, which is a phenomenal move. This guy is very good. Jay, I think this guy's gone through a lot of different names. Wait, no, that's not who I'm thinking of. This was, I believe, the duelist player for Rare Adam. I might be mistaken, but I believe this was either the Sentinel or duelist or Rare Adam, who looked really good. Yukal was really good, very flexible player. This KK Lin, I don't know much about, and Jakiro I know has been around and is a decent player. So between these two, I mean, they were both pretty low last year, but I like the roster moves of JDG. Signing a really good coach in your region, at least. Signing a big pickup from tier 2. Signing a player who went to a top 3 at a Masters is pretty sick. And keeping your best player by far is just a good way to build a roster. I'm not gonna lie. Versus keeping the same 5+ staff of arguably the worst team last year. in your region. So let's move on to Trace and Wolves. They're right next to each other. So let's start with Trace. They're keeping Kai, Luo King, Viva, Delby. But they're missing one. I assume they would have kept either Fangaf or Martin. I'm not sure where Bianca went as well. I wonder if he joined a different team, because I do not remember that off the top of my head. Wolves, they got Yosemite, Jawa, which looks like a pretty good pickup. Glacier and Autumn. I don't remember seeing these two people, but they played in the offseason with this 4 and someone else, Satoshi, that they are already looking to get rid of, which is very uncommon, honestly, in Valorant. You don't see a lot of people like commit to someone and then cut them. That's very uncommon, I would say, especially like during the offseason. So this would mean that these two are probably trialing, and they're gonna have a 6-man. Fade, I believe this was the Vitality coach last year. I could be mistaken. Lysor, Yukon, Juicy, all 3 gone. I think this roster was pretty good, but honestly, like, if you see a chance to upgrade, you might as well go for it. I think Yosemite is a really good shooter. He's a pretty good player overall, especially when he was on, I believe it was FPX. He was doing a lot for that team. That was a minute ago, though. It might not have been Yosemite. No, it was Billy. And then he went to FPX. So keeping Kai, Luo King, Viva's a decent player. Delby is a pretty good player as well. I would have assumed it would be one of these two, filling in as their 5th. I think Martin was playing in the off-season with them. I don't know. Overall, I like the way that Trace is building their roster, and I like the names a little bit more. I am a little bit confused between the roles, because I thought Delby was playing controller and Luo King has always been their controller. But to be fair, I think Delby was the second duelist, kind of like Kiko playing controller. So maybe he plays like Sentinel and like second duelist or something. Or Luo King learns Sentinel. I think Viva would be playing Initiator for this team. I'm excited for this Trace team. It does look really good on paper. Some pretty good moves. Keeping the 2 coaches from last year is not the worst move, especially since this team has international experience between Champs and Masters 1 this year, Bangkok. FBX Tyloo. Looks like a Tylee's roster. From what I've heard, these players are actually really good. Slowly is really good. Splash is really good. Sword 9, I think, has like a lot of assistant coach experience as well. I think he was like on EDG at one point as like a coach. Scales, I think, is also decent from what I remember. I don't know much about this team overall. I don't go out of my way to watch Tyloo games, and I don't think there's been much like news on these players before. So I only really recognize Slowly getting retained and Sword 9 being around in CN. But then you have Fun Plus Phoenix, which is retaining life, keeping Ayang. Ayang is playing, I want to say it's Sentinel now. Berlin is playing main Initiator, which moves Ayang off of Initiator. Scary is coming out of retirement alongside Legia, who was the coach and controller of Bleed. Setrod is playing the flex role for the team. So yeah, I think Ayang is playing Sentinel for the team. This guy looks pretty good in the offseason. Scary is a phenomenal name. Berlin's a pretty good player. Ayang, I think, will take some time to learn Sentinel. And Life, I have been saying for the longest time, is like one of the best duelists in China. I mean, I think this is a pretty clear FBX for me. And let's move on to upper round 2. These are actually some pretty good games. So Billy Nova. Billy, I believe, are retaining their team. Yeah, Billy are running their team back, losing their coach, bringing in Muggle, who was on, I believe, Edward Gaming. I think both of these teams are decent. However, I do want to go with Billy because they are, well, actually, I think this is a close game. Thinking about it now, truly, because you have an okay team making moves, looking to get better, and you have a good team that kind of started to stagnate, who's been not so great in the offseason. So I'm kind of interested to see this. This should be a competitive game, actually. I think this game is Billy's game to lose, unless Nova come out swinging. I'm kind of torn on this, but I want to go with Billy. This should be their game to lose. I do kind of want to go with Nova, because I think they can upset, but I think this is Billy's game to lose. DRG versus JDG. Again, JDG are keeping this is their team, keeping 3, adding in Yukon J, plus Coach Bale. I gotta just go with consistency. This Dragon Ranger gaming team went to champs as like kind of like an underdog. They honestly had a really good showing against all the teams that they played in champs, with Demon 1 on as the sub for Vukashu, however you pronounce his name. Then they didn't win a game, whereas XLG won a game against Sentinels. I believe it was Sentinels upsetting them, and then that means that Dragon Ranger Gaming were then the lower seed team, or like the lower placing team between the two for Ascension. So seeing both Ascension teams qualified, 2 champs, and Dragon Ranger Gaming had to go back to Ascension, had to re-earn their spot, and they did pretty convincingly. There's a little bit of a question towards the end, but they pulled it out. So I think this team is this is the more experienced team, and they have like the skill to back up that experience too. Moving on, XOG Trace. These 2 games I think are going to be so good, especially like these 4 teams specifically. Let's go to XOG. So they are bringing in WS Leo, who I do not know much about, but they are bringing in Lysor, which I think is a pretty big pickup. They are losing Viva and Coconut. They are retaining Rarga, Happy Way, and No Man. So Lysor would be playing, I believe, Controller. Maybe Sentinel? I don't know what Happy Way was playing. I think Happy Way might have been the Sentinel. This guy might be their initiator. And No Man is playing Flex for the team. And then, who are they facing? Trace, Delphi Viva, Luok, and Kai. I think this is a pretty fun game. I'm not torn one way or the other, to be honest. I think I'm gonna go with XLG based off of that they have more of a core, and that Trace were just a lower rated team last year. I think that the players on the players on Trace could win this though. These are both pretty stacked rosters. EDG FPX. Let's go to EDG. They took CB, the coach, both from Nova, 24K, and CB, head coach and flex role, and I believe CB was IGLing at some parts of the year. And then they're bringing in head coach of T1, Autumn, last year. You know, that guy. Sylvan, did you shoot your gun? Which will be fun. I think this team should be pretty sick, although this might be number 1 and number 2 in China again. I really have high expectations of this EDG team. I think this team is really sick. I think they should definitely look a lot better than they did last year, especially if Yoru gets nerfed. And CB is a really flexible player. He can play basically anything. He can IGL, he can play Sova, he can play Neon. Like, what are interesting 2 agents to be able to play. He can play Duelist. Like, I've seen him play a lot of stuff on Nova. Although I will not disregard this FPX team. This FPX team is very nice. The players on this team are nice. Especially after Ian gets, like, comfortable on Sentinel. And, like, he can shoot similarly to his Initiator. So let's continue the upper. Let's just go bracket by bracket and then go down here as we go. Billy and DRG. I want to go with Dragon Ranger Gaming just off of what I said before, and I think there's a good chance this is Nova as well. I think Dragon Ranger Gaming just has the consistency, and I think they just are a higher peak team. Like, looking at how the 2 teams looked in Champs, I think it's pretty obvious that Billy was the worst team. And I think, like, losing a coach can hurt your team possibly. But it could also do, like, it could also benefit your team. I think that might be the case for RQ. I didn't Jovi. But I think this is Dragon Ranger Gaming's game to lose as well. I would be surprised if they do lose it. This brings us to XOG EDG. I think this is just overall team diff. I think EDG will win this. And then we get this rematch of Dragon Ranger Gaming EDG. I think that this should go to EDG, although I can see a world where Dragon Ranger Gaming win this too. I think this DRG team is pretty good. So let's go down to the middle round, the middle bracket. We start out with All Gamers Fun plus Phoenix. I think this Fun plus Phoenix team is a really good team. I think this team should be owning everyone, especially All Gamers. I think there's a very small amount of teams that I will have FPX losing to. Currently only EDG. Tech and Trace, again, is this a rematch? Oh no. I think Trace just making moves is better than a bad team not making moves. And this Trace team has actually, like, this team has a lot of experience compared to Tech, doing only making EWC across the 2 years of CN. It's basically taking a bunch of old EDG players and coach. FPX Trace, I'm more convinced by FPX having a full team and playing in the offseason versus Trace not having a set 5th, or set 5 rather. So I want to go with FPX on this. Wolves JDG, I think this could go either way kinda. I don't know, I'm not really convinced by these the Wolves changes. I think I kinda wanna go with JDG on this. Especially if they're, like, making moves so late into the offseason again. Tyloo Nova, I think this is probably closer than I'm giving it credit for, but I think Nova should win this. JDG Nova, I think this is also a close game. I'm gonna let my bias take over and choose Nova on this. Okay, this gives us some pretty good games. I do kind of want to go with Nova just off of the offseason, but I think this XOG team should be better. I have a lot of faith in XOG. XOG might be one of my favorite CN teams as well. Putting Nova in the lower bracket. And FBX Billy. I think this FPX team just looks better overall, which is an easy pick for me. Again, kind of the same thing. FPX looks pretty good so far, and this team should only get better. And I have a lot of faith in the head coach of Legia, just from what I've heard from an interview with him. Kind of like Coach Frost. Once you hear the coach, I think it kind of gives you a lot more confidence in the team. FPX Dragon Ranger Gaming, I could see this going either way. I think this is a really close game. What is the DRG5? Flexin, Vikashu, Akaben, Spirits. I think Nathan D was the head coach of FPX prior, which is interesting to me. But I think I want to go with FPX. I don't know. This is close. This is really close. I think this is Dragon Ranger Gaming's game. I don't know. It's close. This is a very hard decision for me. I think DRG have at least the synergy. They'll be more cohesive earlier on. All Gamers Tech. Again, I'm just not excited for Tech at all. I think it's an easy elimination for me. Wolves Tyloo. This is close. I think I kind of want to go with Wolves off of players, but I also I don't know. Spring and Sufat Baby are both pretty good. Yosemite is a pretty solid player. Jawa looked good in the offs. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Wolves. More so on, I don't know much about this Tyloo team, and I'm not confident either, really. Moving on, Trace Wolves. I think Trace should win this. I think the player quality on Trace that I've seen is a little bit higher. All Gamer JDG. What's All Gamers team? Yeah, I'm gonna go with JDG on this. JDG Billy. I think that's kind of a toss-up, but I'm gonna lean towards the slightly higher ranking team of Billy. They looked really good in Toronto. Trace Nova. I think there's a world where this goes either way. I'm gonna go off of the off-season events here and go with Nova, but I think Trace should probably win this. I'm gonna go with Nova here though. Billy and Nova. I think Nova, or Billy rather, actually. Yeah. They will have played each other in the bracket already, and I think this is a very likely matchup. Nova just have to not lose. Actually, I might go with the rematch with Nova here. I'm kind of tempted to go for it. I think I'm going to go for it. And then another rematch. I kind of want to go with Nova again, just off of a rematch, and they look pretty good on the offseason, and XOG don't have a set 5. Yeah, I think this might be a bit overrating Nova, but hey man. I think this is what I'm gonna lock right now, which means EDG, Dragon Ranger Gaming, and FPX all will be going to Master Santiago. So submit pick'em, group, create group. Here's the code to the group. I will put it in the description, and it will be in the Discord. It's in the also in the description of the video. Like, subscribe, share. Follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to go live a little bit more. Follow my Twitter, although I don't really post that much these days. But just stay up to date on everything. With that being said, I'll see you guys in another video. Peace out.